Hello and welcome back to the Rekt Capital channel, and welcome to today's video update on the market, Bitcoin, altcoin dominance, Dogecoin and Ethereum. These are all things we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be answering the question of why is Bitcoin nearing its end on this latest recovery, and also why altcoins are showing promise. So if you're new to the channel, click the subscribe button for more content like this in the future, and of course feel free to watch the video until the very end so that you can gain a better understanding of what's going on in the market from multiple different angles. And let's dive right into the video. This is Bitcoin's price action on the weekly chart, and if you look at the 200 weekly EMA on a different view, this is the black exponential moving average, the 200 EMA that has a very important long-term gauge of investor sentiment. We rebounded from that. We closed above this level, which is fantastic news, of course, because it is an important gauge for investor sentiment. And this blue dashed line is the level that we need to be watching for going forward, because 7,200, as we'll see going forward in this video, is an important rejection point for Bitcoin, and it will make much more sense if we go in a little further to the video. But essentially speaking, this is the 200 week moving average heat map, and you can see that the 200 weekly exponential moving average is a point of reversal for Bitcoin's price action. You can see that this is the heat map showing, essentially blue is showing to us that we're at the bottom, essentially speaking, and we have blue dots right over here on the heat map, and we're having our first blue dot over here as well. And as you can see, over the course of history, we have at least a few dots around the 200 week moving average, and you can see we even have around 4 around this 200 weekly moving average. So this is the first one. This is something that we need to pay attention to going forward, but I don't think we're going to have just one dot over here. I don't think we're just going to have one point of contact, and this ties in with what I'm talking about in terms of the investor tool, the 2-year moving average multiplier. So you can see this is a different data science model that is just showing us that we are in an area that produces outsized returns to investors who are very happy to accumulate here. So of course we are in one of those areas right now. If we zoom in, here we are. This is the area we are in at the moment. So you can see that Bitcoin's price action is climbing towards the upside, and this level is the 7,200 level that I mentioned earlier on. So I'm going to just go back to this chart here. This is the level that we need to be looking out for. And so far you can actually see quite a bit of wicking towards this level, and in fact we saw strong sell side action towards the downside, pushing that candle down, but we've recovered since then, but still a lot of wicking at this price level, which just shows to us that this is an area to be reckoned with. This is a region of resistance for Bitcoin going forward, and that's why I think this latest recovery might be exhausting, because if we just look at this 7,200 region of resistance, you can see that if we zoom in a little bit better, a little bit closer, this is the resistance that we need to be paying attention to, all the while paying attention to this higher low that's forming. So I was talking about how this is an ascending triangle with the Bitcoin halving coming up a little later on, in around 49 days to be precise, but we are seeing this wedging price action. In fact, we're seeing wedging price action a lot of the time in these outsized reward areas for Bitcoin, something I spoke about in a previous video, so feel free to check that out. This is currently the price predicament for Bitcoin. We are climbing over here. Of course, it's not a given that we're going to reach 7,200, but this is the most that I feel that Bitcoin would reach before experiencing a rejection. Of course, it could experience a rejection a little bit earlier just to showcase the top of a wedge forming, but this so far looks like it's a very good wedge in of itself. So we might see some rejection here and then some pullback action as well. So just watching out for how this wedge is going to play out, but at the moment we are in this area of outsized returns for Bitcoin investors, whoever accumulate here. This has been historically the case, so we are in an exciting time. So on a macro scale, it is an exciting time, but on a short-term scale, we might have to have a pullback, which in fact ties in with the historical tendency that we tend to see a few bounces from this 200 weekly moving average. So this one bounce is promising because I don't think that this was enough of an accumulation period in this area of outsized return. We tend to see these accumulation periods last a little bit longer. So that's why I feel like this is going to be a point of rejection where we continue to just consolidate within this area, essentially speaking, within this wedging structure. And there's even more evidence to just suggest this, that we might be nearing a point of rejection around here. And this is essentially a chart showing the percentage decline upon breakdowns from the 2-year moving average. So if we just zoom out, just to make this clear, how much does Bitcoin's price tumble whenever it breaks down from the 2-year moving average, which is the green line over here? How much does it tumble from here? How much does it tumble from here? And the same goes here. How much does it tumble whenever it breaks down from the 2-year moving average? So that's essentially what that chart is showcasing to us. And what it's showing is that upon breakdown, we saw a 45% decline, and now we're seeing a recovery. And this might be the point of rejection, because if we go back in time to just look at the percentage decline from the 2-year moving average in 2011, we saw a breakdown past the 2-year moving average, which is the black line, a retest of this moving average as a resistance, followed by a strong rejection, a bit of a recovery, right? A bit of a recovery over here, but nonetheless further downside. In 2014, 2015, we also saw a breakdown followed by a small recovery just to try and retest that as a resistance. And this wasn't a picture perfect retest, but in any case, it's just showing to us that there was a recovery. And in fact, there was a recovery here as well. But the point I'm trying to make is that we see small recoveries along the way, and sometimes these recoveries just recover so as to test this level as a point of rejection, as a resistance. And sometimes this isn't a picture perfect retest, but in any case, it is technical behavior that leads to the downside, that precedes that downward price action. Here in 2018, the percentage decline was 43%, so very similar to this time round, and we just saw a crash. Of course, a recovery, but this wasn't an attempt to just try and test this as a resistance and confirm it as a resistance. This was a very sharp recovery, very small buy pressure here. So in any case, you can see that this 2-year moving average tends to be a resistance after a breakdown. Sometimes we get that recovery into a resistance like we are seeing right now, and sometimes we don't, like we saw in the 2018-2019 period right over here. This is actually the 2018 period where we just saw a very strong crash altogether. So that just lends further evidence towards the fact that this might be a point of rejection, and in fact we might be just waiting for Bitcoin to reach lower price levels once again, and just be prepared for those price levels and do something about it. So we've covered why I feel that Bitcoin might be nearing the end of its recovery rally. Let's move on to why I feel that altcoins are actually in a position of strength on a macro scale. They are promising for the future. If we just look at this ascending triangle, I spoke about this yesterday, a breakout towards the upside, and then now we're seeing a few weeks of sell side action for altcoin dominance, and we're now seeing a technical retest attempt. But this on the short term is looking pretty good. It is looking picture perfect from a technical standpoint, but what I want to actually showcase to you is that we are in this purple level over here. We are in the purple level in terms of the fractal. We'll probably not see such a increase in altcoin dominance like we saw before the second halving. I don't think that's going to happen. In fact, I think any increases in altcoin dominance should occur after the halving, but I still feel like there would be an increase, a substantial increase in altcoin valuations, just not as exponential as this one over here. I don't think it's going to happen like this. I don't think it's going to be as sharp, as quick, but I do feel like after the halving, we could see an increase, exponential increases in altcoin valuations upon breaking this dotted black diagonal resistance to just break out of this triangle where we're seeing altcoin dominance just coil in towards the apex of this triangle, and upon breakout we'll probably see a nice exponential uptrend, but not as sharp, not as quick as before, but nonetheless very promising for altcoins going forward. And for this to be the case, we have to see strength in the majors, and we can see a beautiful price structure for Ethereum USD, but recently we actually saw a breakdown from this price structure, the ascending triangle. So it's very important that Ethereum just performs this morning star candlestick formation and closes above the weekly, above this trend line on the weekly, and this starts off with daily candle closes above this trend line as well. So we're just waiting for that weekly candle close above the bottom trend line just to reaffirm that it's back into this market structure, because this market structure is very similar to the market structure that we're seeing on Dogecoin, which has been a very solid performer. It's been coiling within the structure from the bottom of the ascending triangle to the top, to the bottom, to the top. It's been doing this for the past few weeks, and it's holding its market structure, and this only precedes, most likely precedes, a breakout towards the upside for yet another Dogecoin hype cycle, and this of course ties in with a hype cycle for altcoins. So if you haven't checked out the significance behind Dogecoin price movements and how this actually predicts and even confirms continuation for altcoin rallies across the board, check out the video in the top right hand corner. It's a very solid research piece just showcasing to you these correlations between Dogecoin and altcoin dominance increases, because this is essentially a very good predictor for altcoin valuation increases. So I'm waiting for this market structure to resolve itself, and it could be the case that we'll actually see altcoin dominance resolve this apex situation as well in tandem. So that could coincide at the same time, which would be very interesting to see, because at the moment Dogecoin is approaching the bottom of its ascending triangle. It'll probably test this as a support again and then rally towards the upside, which would be around a 26% increase in the Dogecoin BTC pair. And having said that, that's just about it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider dropping a like as always. Of course, subscribe for more videos like this in the future. I'm Rekt Capital, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Speak soon.